Boarding School Murder Mystery Part 3. Subscribe to Glorious Magazine at glorythink.substack.com for free for fresh fiction and poetry, or become a paid member to help independent voices like ours keep telling the stories that matter most. Previously on Boarding School Murder Mystery, Gwen left her home in Mississippi to attend Whisperen Academy in Canada. But the trip's been full of strange coincidences, miscommunications, and mysterious kindnesses. Chapter 3, Goodbye America, Hello Canada, by Glory Think. Dear Diary, if you had told me this morning that my ride to school would involve a near-death bus crash, a possible ghost encounter, and a customs officer named the Woodsman, I'd have assumed you were quoting one of those absurd travel novels my mom loves. But here we are. Rain picked me up at the Seattle train station in a pumpkin orange Volkswagen van that looked exactly like the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine. It even smelled faintly of patchouli and adventure. He called it his Mobile Aura Alignment Center and insisted on giving me a hippie tour of Seattle while we waited for the academy parents I'd be staying with until the ferry workers' strike ended. The family's house was straight out of a futuristic fairy tale. Smart fridge, the refrigerator makes its own grocery list when you run out of foodstuffs, self-tinting windows, and a chef who asked me my preferred flavor profile. For 2 whole days, I felt like a princess powered by quinoa and cloud foam lattes. Then came the ferry journey. It started with a 4-hour bus ride that was supposed to be 2.5. Then, as if auditioning for an action movie, our driver managed to park the bus onto the ferry incorrectly, sending a steel beam through the front window, inches from my head. Sparks, screaming, the smell of burnt rubber, it was chaos. Thankfully, everyone got out unharmed, including me, though the bus itself looked like it had fought a transformer and lost. We ended up stranded on the ferry's wooden benches for hours while they tried to fix, quote, unrelated engine troubles. Sure, Jan. I sat there trembling until a kind older lady with a Scottish accent plopped down beside me. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked. I told her about the bus incident and my seasickness. "Well," she said, "I'll sit with you till you don't feel seasick anymore. I'm sure that's..." And then I said, "I'm not sure that's a real cure," I told her, "but I'd like the company." She introduced herself as Maureen and told me she'd grown up in the Hebrides, sent to a boarding school in the 1950s because her island didn't have a secondary school, high school. As we talked, dolphins and whales appeared alongside the ship, their fins slicing through the water like playful silver ribbons. And somehow, she was right. I didn't feel seasick anymore. Maureen urged me to grab snacks for later because she'll want something sweet and salty before your first night at the academy. So I did. A soda, granola bar, mini donuts to share with her, plus the candy bar and onions crisps she'd suggested. But when I came back, Maureen was gone, completely vanished. I searched the ferry twice. No Maureen. Not even a crumb of her shortbread biscuit. Maybe she'd gone below deck to sit in a car? Maybe she'd never been there at all. By the time we reached the port near Victoria, the sun was sinking and chaos had returned. All the luggage was dumped in one giant heap. My duffel bags, of course, were at the very bottom. By the time I dragged them 800 feet up the hill to the customs office, I was the last one through. The customs inspectors made me unpack everything, including my trombone. They even asked me to play it to prove it's for personal use. The only songs I could think of off the top of my head were Louie Louie and the trombone part from the Dance of the Flowers. They did not clap. By the time I finished, it was past 9 p.m. and everyone else was long gone. No ride, no welcome, just me, my bags, and the buzzing of the overhead lights. The inspectors started locking up the building. Agent Brownsmith said I could wait on the porch. Quickly, I stopped the inspectors and panic begged them to let me use the phone to call the academy. One of them begrudgingly said he'd stay behind, but then I had to dig out my academy pamphlet that had all the school phone numbers. I'm so grateful I still had it in my purse from last spring. ADHD for the win. I called every number listed, but no one answered any of the administration numbers. I was nearly in tears and was trying to hold it together. The inspector said, "Legally, you're not allowed to sleep in the custom shack, but you can sleep on your duffel bags inside the front porch of the building." That's when I got desperate and started calling every numerical number between the headmistress's office and the kitchen in the hopes of getting a live person who lived nearby to help me get in contact with the school. The fourth number I randomly called turned out to be one of the boys' dorm parents, and they were such angels. Through my sniffling and tears, they assured me someone would be heading out within 10 minutes to pick me up. I told them what the inspector said about sleeping on the porch, and they assured me they would just drive out personally if they couldn't find anyone to fetch me. They hung up, so I told Agent Brownsmith what they said. He even helped me stack my bags into a makeshift bed before scribbling a phone number on a slip of paper. "If no one comes by 11, he said, "walk up this road a quarter mile to the convenience store. It'll be closed, but the payphone will work. Call this number. Ask for Cousin Ruthie. She runs a boarding house and only lives 5 minutes away. She'll pick you up and give you a bed for the night. Don't tell anyone I gave you this number. Just tell her the woodsman sent you, and she won't ask you any further questions." And then he left. So there I sat, alone in the moonlight, surrounded by my luggage and the sound of frogs. I cried a little. Okay, a lot. And told myself it was just travel fatigue. At 11:15, I gave up waiting and started walking toward the store. That's when Rain's pumpkin orange van came barreling down the road, kicking up dust like a miracle on wheels. He slammed the brakes, leaned out the window, and yelled, "You've only been in Canada a few hours and you're already wandering the streets? Hop in, kiddo. Where's your stuff?" He helped me load my duffel bags into the van, and then we drove in silence for a while. My throat ached with unshed tears. Finally, Rain said softly, "Do you want to tell me about your day, or should I tell you about mine?" I didn't trust myself not to cry, so I said, "You first." He told me about the chaos at the academy, fire alarms, cold showers, broken furnaces, and how just as he'd gotten things under control, then Mr. and Mrs. Bubala, that's their real names, diary, had gotten my call and had pretty much gotten the entire campus in an uproar looking for me before they finally found him shoulder deep working on a furnace. So he put all that work aside to clean up and come pick me up, but he never actually driven to the Victoria Ferry Port Customs Office before, and deeply regretted asking the first 10 people for directions. "I'm starting to think most locals on this island have never given directions to a stranger before," he groaned. "Gwen, they kept telling me to look for a really big oak tree and take a sharp left there, but how am I supposed to see a tree in the dark when there are no streetlights?" "I don't know. In Mississippi," I told him, "we just use printed signs and mile markers." He laughed, and the tension in my chest finally eased up. Then he asked if I would tell him about my day, so I told him everything I've told you, diary. By then, we'd arrived at the academy. Rain parked and turned to me. "You've made it home, Gwen," he said. "Would you like a welcome home hug?" I hesitated, then nodded. It was a good hug. Solid, safe, real. Then Rain said, "Which bag has your toiletries and night clothes? I'll deliver the rest of your bags to your room tomorrow while you're getting fitted for your school uniform after breakfast." And that, diary, is why I'm sitting in the girls' dorm bathroom floor writing to you. I'm still too wired to fall asleep, but all my roommates are already asleep. At least I have snacks. Thank you, maybe Ghost Maureen. No one saved me a dinner plate, but I've got onion crisps and chocolate donuts, and right now, that feels like a feast. I already feel kind of lost here. Maybe I should have stayed home in Mississippi and just dealt with all the school bullies. I wonder if it'll ever be possible to find my place in this world. Here's hoping tomorrow goes better. With love, Gwen. Coming soon. Gwen's first Canadian night ends with donuts for dinner and an existential crisis on the bathroom floor. She doesn't know it yet, but the real adventure starts at breakfast, where apparently every stranger on campus already knows who she is. New country, new school, same old awkward panic. Tune in next time for Chapter 4. Thanks for tagging along with Gwen in Chapter 3. From ghostly fairy friends to heroic hugs, this leg of the journey has everything but sleep. The mystery's only getting deeper. Follow Gwen's misadventures and Sadie Cohen Bounty Hunter too, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and beyond. If you laughed, winced, or whispered, "Oh no," at the buzz scene, tap the heart button. Drop a comment. Gwen will definitely overanalyze it later. Toss a few coins in the snack fund. No haunted fairy required on Ko-fi, Venmo, and Cash App. Every bit of encouragement keeps indie storytelling afloat and sailing towards new adventures. Hop aboard for future chapters at Glorious Magazine. You can also stay connected with the Coffee Bunny Crafters Cafe. Subscribe for cozy chaos, creative magic, and behind-the-scenes updates. Add coffeebunny.substack.com. You can also find me, Glory Think, on social media, on Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and TikTok. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.